Gina Strand lived in the countryside of North Carolina, an orphan with a story marked by challenges, but with a flame of resilience and hope always burning within her. Since childhood, the world of fashion fascinated Gina. She was enchanted by the colors, textures, and silhouettes, dreaming of the day she could turn her passion into a career. Her determination led her to earn a scholarship to study fashion at university. Gina stood out not only for her natural talent, but also for her dedication and commitment to each project. College classes were like a perfect harmony for Gina. Every detail, every stitch, every design turned into a visual symphony in her hands. The love of her life, Stuart, shared not only an orphanage past with Gina, but also the persistence and dream of a better future. Stuart's path to dentistry also began with a university scholarship like Gina. Stuart shined in his field. He combined a firm and steady hand with a natural empathy that earned the trust of his patients over time. Stuart managed to open his own dental practice, while Gina, after honing her skills in various luxury stores in Raleigh, fulfilled her dream of opening her own boutique. Gina's store was a true reflection of her personality, elegant, inviting, and filled with creativity. Gina's unique designs, crafted directly in her store, quickly made her one of the most renowned fashion designers in Raleigh. Gina and Stuart, now with their respective flourishing careers, look back at their humble beginnings in the orphanage with gratitude. They had built a prosperous future from difficult circumstances, showing that resilience, determination, and passion can overcome any obstacle. They were proud of their journeys and eager to enjoy the happiness they had worked so hard to achieve. At the peak of their successful careers, Gina and Stuart decided to further strengthen their bond and vowed eternal love to each other. The wedding was a lavish celebration, a merging of two souls destined to be together. Soon, this union produced the most beautiful fruits, a pair of joyful twins, Chuck and Julie, who filled Gina and Stuart's life with immeasurable and endless love. Enjoying the financial security they had painstakingly built, Gina and Stuart were able to provide Chuck and Julie with the best education and everything they could desire. But above all, they were able to offer an abundance of affection, care, and love. "The world is a better place with both of you in it," Gina used to whisper to the children at night, expressing the deep and unconditional love she felt for them. However, the wheel of fortune cruelly turned, striking at the core of the family's peaceful existence. Stuart, returning from a dental conference, was involved in a terrible car accident. The vehicle, once a symbol of progress and freedom, became the instrument of an unimaginable tragedy. The following days turned into a whirlwind of anguish for Gina. The hospital became a dark second home, with Stuart fighting a fierce battle for his life in the intensive care unit. The sterilized corridors echoed with the constant hum of machines, while Gina held Stuart's hand, whispering words of encouragement. "You are strong, my love," she murmured with tears in her eyes, trying to infuse her own strength into him. "Our children need you. I need you." However, after 15 days of valiant resistance, Stuart succumbed to his injuries. The news felt like an axe upon Gina, leaving her and her children helpless. Stuart's warm presence, which had been a constant in their lives, suddenly disappeared, leaving a void that seemed impossible to fill. Gina, now a widow with 2 young children, found herself alone in a sea of uncertainties. The intensity of the loss was almost unbearable, but she knew she had to stay strong for herself, for Chuck and Julie, and for the memory of Stuart. As a widow and mother of 2 7-year-olds, Gina found herself in an abyss of despair. The pain of losing Stuart was overwhelming, but she remained resilient for the sake of Chuck and Julie. With a heavy sigh, Gina whispered to herself, "I need to be strong for our children, for Stuart." She gathered all her courage and decided to face adversity, returning to work with renewed determination. However, she was not prepared for the new challenges life was about to present her. The pandemic emerged like a hurricane, devastating every aspect of life as she knew it. Sales at Gina's store plummeted, pushing her dream of a thriving business to the brink of collapse. But the storm had not passed yet, and Gina had no idea that the worst was still to come. Gina shared the company with a business partner, Teresa. This was no ordinary business partnership, but rather a former colleague from a store where Gina had worked. United by their dreams and ambitions, the two women opened their own fashion boutique. Gina, with her keen eye for style and passion for creation, focused on curating collections and developing unique pieces, always staying up to date with the latest trends in the fashion world. Teresa, on the other hand, managed the financial side of the store, ensuring that the company operated profitably and sustainably. However, things began to change drastically. Shortly before Stuart's death, Teresa announced her intention to move away, deciding that she did not want to continue running the business remotely. "Gina, I can't go on anymore," Teresa said, her face illuminated by sadness. "I need to move, and I simply can't manage the store from a distance. I hope you understand." Gina, though disappointed by her partner's departure, understood the situation and agreed to buy out Teresa's share. However, 2 months into the pandemic, Gina made a shocking discovery: a financial hole in the company. The deficit was so significant that it exceeded the value of the store itself, an unpayable debt in the economic crisis caused by the pandemic. Undoubtedly, this blow was the last straw for Gina. While still struggling to stand tall in the face of her husband's loss and a global financial crisis, she now faced a mountain of debt that threatened to sink the business she loved so much. The financial situation became unsustainable, and Gina, facing a harsh reality, found herself forced to take drastic measures. Selling the store she had taken so much pride in was just the first step. Soon, their beautiful home, where the family shared happy memories, also had to be sold, replaced by a modest and cramped apartment. Her luxury car, once a symbol of her success, was next to go, as well as many of her beloved clothing pieces. The pressure of all the chaos caused Gina, the woman who had previously stood firm as a rock, to succumb to depression. Alcohol became a refuge for the pain that invaded her. Unfortunately, in her state of despair, she neglected the attention her children needed, something she never would have imagined herself doing. She spent an entire year immersed in sadness and hopelessness, not working and unable to find a purpose to continue. However, an incident involving her son Chuck opened her eyes. He developed severe pneumonia that led to his hospitalization. Gina found herself by her son's bedside in the hospital, watching him struggle to breathe, her heart filled with fear and regret. "Gina," the doctor said, "Chuck is strong, but he needs your support. He needs his mother." That reality hit her like a punch to the gut. Gina realized then that she needed to rise, not just for herself, but for her children. The only thing sustaining Gina and her children up until that point was a small reserve fund she had accumulated, but it was now dwindling drastically. Gina needed to find work more than ever. Unfortunately, finding a job in her area of expertise proved to be a Herculean task. Gina spent 3 months researching and sending out resumes, but her attempts proved fruitless. The money ran out, and with it, the food in the pantry. Gina found herself in a moment of reflection, looking at the faces of her children, now thinner and worn out. "Mom," Julie, the youngest, said one day, "don't we have anything to eat today?" That simple question hit Gina like a stab to the heart. She knew she had to take drastic action, even if it meant seeking employment outside of her comfort zone. Gina began to consider jobs she had never imagined, such as being a nanny or a cleaner, anything that could bring food to the table and ensure the well-being of her children. Just when the last sparks of hope seemed to fade, a ray of light appeared on the horizon for Gina. She found a managerial position at an extremely luxurious store. Given her extensive experience in the industry, Gina was certain that this opportunity was perfectly suited for her. Wearing her best smile and her most valuable confidence, Gina prepared for the job interview. Her children, now 8 years old and already quite responsible, would accompany her. She knew they would understand the situation and behave appropriately. On the morning of the interview, as Gina was preparing breakfast for Chuck and Julie, she realized that the groceries had run out. Her somber expression caught the attention of the children, who asked, "Mommy, why don't we have breakfast?" "I'm sorry, my loves," replied Gina, trying to disguise the disappointment in her voice, "but I promise we'll have a delicious snack when we get back." Gina was filled with confidence. She knew that her rich experience and unparalleled talent in fashion would make her an unforgettable candidate for the position she planned to request. In advance, she planned to buy food as soon as she secured the position. She needed this opportunity not just for herself, but mostly for her children. As Gina walked towards her interview, she and her children passed by a cozy cafe with the tempting aroma of fresh bread filling the sidewalk. The eyes of little Chuck and Julie instantly lit up, and they turned to Gina with pleading looks. "Mom, can we have something to eat? We're very hungry," pleaded Julie, holding her belly in a dramatic gesture. Gina's heart tightened as she looked at her children's anxious faces. She rummaged through her purse for any forgotten money, any amount that could provide a small snack for the kids. However, a thorough search only confirmed her worries. There wasn't even enough to buy a small bread roll. "Don't worry, my loves," said Gina, making an effort to hide the anguish in her voice. "I promise that once we finish the interview, I'll buy something delicious for us to eat. It'll be our celebratory lunch." While trying to keep the conversation lively and optimistic, Gina heard someone calling her name, a familiar voice that made her heart skip a beat. "Gina, what a joy to see you. How have you been?" exclaimed a smiling woman. It was Natasha, one of the top salespeople and Gina's confidant during the times when she owned the store, a friendly and beloved face that brought a wave of nostalgia. "Natasha," Gina replied with a hint of surprise and relief in her voice, "it's been so long. I'm glad to see you." Although Natasha was fully aware of the tragic sequence of events that led to Gina's store collapsing, she remained unaware of the food scarcity that her friend's family was facing now. "Gina, how have things been?" inquired Natasha, a tone of concern marking her words. "I always believed you would rebuild the store." Gina hesitated before responding. "Actually, Natasha, things have been quite difficult," she confessed. "I couldn't recover the store, but I'm trying to move forward. I'm on my way to an interview for a manager position at Fashion and Trends right now." "That's wonderful, Gina. I'm sure this position is already yours. You have so much experience," said Natasha, trying to convey optimism. "As for me, I'm also trying to rebuild. I opened a small clothing workshop where I make and repair clothes. I thought it would be a great success, but things aren't going as well as I expected. It's just down the street. Drop by to visit when you can." The conversation was abruptly interrupted by Chuck's trembling voice. The little boy could no longer hide his discomfort. "Mom, sorry to interrupt," he began, his pale face contrasting with his anxious eyes. "Are we going to take a long time to eat? Julie and I have been hungry since yesterday. You promised we would stop for food after the interview. We're really hungry, we can barely hold on." Gina's expression tensed as she heard Chuck's words, her face flushed with embarrassment and concern. She tried to reassure the children with a forced smile, but the intensity of the situation had already been noticed by Natasha. Quickly, Natasha took action, turning to the children with a warm smile. "How about it, little ones? We'll go to the bakery for a delicious snack, and then we'll take a look at Aunt Natasha's workshop. That way, Mommy can go to her appointment without worries. What do you think?" Gina, though embarrassed, agreed to let her children stay with Natasha, recognizing the need to attend her job interview with peace of mind. She glanced at her friend with gratitude before continuing on her way. Elegance and style had always been a part of Gina, but the storm that life had brought her forced her to sell many of her precious clothes. Depression, coupled with the crisis, had faded her appreciation for fashion. In dressing well, her priority now was to survive, and the remaining clothes in her closet reflected this new reality. For the interview, Gina chose an old and worn-out suit hidden in the depths of her wardrobe. The once elegant piece was faded but still retained a hint of its former shine. Gina knew that to secure employment in a luxury store, the attire expected should match the position. Her faded suit fell short of that standard, but she relied on her extensive professional experience and undeniable talent to make up for it. As she looked at herself in the mirror before leaving, she murmured to herself, "It's not the outfit that makes the professional. I can do this, and if necessary, I'll explain the situation. My experience speaks louder." With these words of self-encouragement, Gina set out to face the interview, carrying the hope of a better future. With a pounding heart and steady steps, Gina entered the exquisite establishment where her interview was scheduled. The ambience exuded luxury and sophistication, with racks filled with meticulously organized designer pieces and mannequins showcasing the latest fashion trends. The confidence Gina felt seemed somewhat out of place amidst the luxurious setting, but she maintained her composure despite the nervousness. One of the saleswomen, elegant in her store uniform, cast an appreciative glance in Gina's direction, assessing her from head to toe. Gina didn't let it intimidate her. She approached the saleswoman with a respectful smile and introduced herself. "Excuse me, I have an interview scheduled with Mrs. Athena. Is she available?" The saleswoman, surprised, gave Gina another critical look. Without a word, she stepped away to summon the manager, leaving Gina standing amidst the sophistication of the store. What followed was something Gina never expected to endure. Athena, the store manager, emerged from the back room. Her stern gaze descended upon Gina, evaluating her modest appearance and worn-out suit. A sarcastic laugh escaped her lips before she addressed Gina. "Oh, dear," Athena began, her voice dripping with condescension. "You see, this store is not a shelter for the homeless looking for a promotion, are you? There's a thrift store more suitable for your situation just around the corner." She finished with a cruel smile distorting her lips. Maintaining what dignity remained, Gina took a step forward, her face blushing but her eyes fixed on Athena. "Athena," she began, trying to keep her voice steady, "I am Gina, the candidate for the manager position. I'm here for the interview." Athena raised her eyebrows, surprised, before letting out an incredulous laugh. "Candidate," she exclaimed, her eyes once again scanning Gina's worn-out appearance. "You must be joking. Look at yourself. I wouldn't hire beggars to work in this establishment. This is a place of luxury, my dear." "But I am Gina," the woman insisted, trying to make herself heard above the scorn in Athena's voice. "I sent my resume. I have a lot of experience in this field. It so happens that since I became widowed, I've been through some difficulties. This isn't my best outfit, it's true, but I really need this job, and I'm sure." Athena raised her hand, interrupting her. "Oh, dear," she said, sarcasm evident in her voice, "I'm Athena Taylor. Nobody tries to deceive me, least of all a beggar like you. The woman I would hire would be the owner of one of the most sophisticated stores this city has ever seen. Do you really think I'll believe a charlatan like you? Leave the premises, or I will call security." Gina, despite her Herculean effort to remain calm, couldn't prevent her words from drowning in a sea of tears. Never, not even in the worst moments of the orphanage, had she felt so humiliated, so stripped of dignity. The tears came like a cascade, a release of all the tension and uncertainty that had been lurking in her heart. She was so certain, so absolutely certain that she would get that job, yet the store owner didn't even give her a chance to speak, hastily judging her solely based on her appearance. Following that tragic episode, Gina found refuge in Natasha's humble workshop, a small store where her friend sewed with dedication, creating beautiful and unique clothes. Gina's somber face was a mirror reflecting the pain of recent humiliation, a clear sign that something had gone wrong. As Gina entered, Natasha approached with a concerned expression and asked in a low voice, "Gina, dear, what happened?" As absurd as it may seem, Gina began with a trembling voice, "They value appearance more than competence. I know that in this industry, looks matter a lot, but I know what I'm capable of. I understand fashion. If only they had listened to me, conducted the interview, I would have had a chance to explain. But they didn't even allow me that. I was treated like a scammer, a beggar, a liar. They called security to throw me out. But I won't give up. I'm sure I'll find another opportunity. Now, let's go home, my loves." It was then that Julie, with her innocent eyes filled with concern, said, "Mommy, we noticed that you didn't eat anything yesterday and only fed us. What are you going to eat? Chuck and I are worried." Gina, with a heavy heart but trying to maintain courage in front of the children, replied, "Don't worry, my little ones. I'll find a solution for that. Now, let's go home. Gina's situation had become clear to Natasha, who realized the severity of the crisis her friend was facing. With a thoughtful expression, Natasha had a spark of inspiration, a solution to Gina's dilemma. Gina, have you ever thought about working with me? I feel like our partnership could be quite productive, Natasha proposed, offering a lifeline to her desperate friend. Gina, overwhelmed by a mix of gratitude and embarrassment, hesitated before responding. Natasha, you don't need to worry so much about me. You said it yourself, times are tough. Relax, Gina. Natasha interrupted, offering a warm and reassuring smile. We can help each other. I know that in addition to your talent for designing wonderful models, you are also an excellent seamstress. Besides, I will need to be away for gallbladder surgery next week. I was going to close the store during that time, but with you here, it can keep running. I can't afford a fixed salary at the moment, but I can offer a commission for the pieces you sew. What do you say? Well, if that's the case, I accept, Gina replied, still feeling a bit uncomfortable but recognizing that the offer was a light at the end of the tunnel. Fantastic, exclaimed Natasha, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. And there's one more thing. I have a little welcome gift for you. She stepped away and returned holding a basket overflowing with food. I put together some things for you and the children to take home. How about that? At that moment, the floodgates of emotion opened again for Gina. She began to cry, but this time, there were tears of relief and gratitude. In the background, the joyful shouts of the children filled the air, and Gina felt a comforting warmth in her heart. She could hardly find the words to thank Natasha for everything she was doing for them. When the time came to say goodbye, curiosity arose in Gina, and she asked Natasha, could you give me the store's social media profiles? I'd like to take a look. Natasha let out a laugh and shook her head. My dear, I confess I've never ventured into that universe. I always thought it wasn't necessary. But if you want to create a profile for the store, feel free. And that's exactly what Gina did. During the day, she sewed tirelessly to fulfill the store's demands, but she still found time to sketch exclusive designs and post them on the newly created social media pages of the store. Within a week, engagement skyrocketed, attracting an audience that not only interacted online but also sought out Natasha's store for personalized orders. One day, however, a familiar customer crossed the threshold of the store, surprising Gina. It was Athena, the owner of the store that had unceremoniously expelled her. With a hint of nervousness in her voice, Athena addressed Gina. Excuse me, is this the store where a talented designer creates exclusive models? Is she here? Yes, it's me, Gina replied, maintaining her calm. Athena seemed surprised, but then assumed a businesslike posture. It seems the rumors were true. You truly are an incredible professional. I have an irresistible proposition for you. In my store, I'm sure you'll be interested. Gina raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh, really? And why this offer now? Athena seemed uncomfortable as she responded, well, I had a mishap with a manager I recently hired, a certain Teresa. She ended up leaving me with a huge financial hole. Only a professional as talented as you can save me from closing the store. Teresa? Teresa Kraus? Yes, that's the one, Athena asked, clearly taken aback. Of course, I know her, Gina replied with a bitter laugh. She's the reason I went bankrupt. Maybe if you had bothered to listen to me back then, you wouldn't be in this situation now. As for your proposition, save your words. I'm not interested. You were prejudiced and arrogant towards me. Please leave unless you want to buy something. Gina didn't utter those words out of a desire for revenge, but as a simple and honest recognition of the course of natural justice. She had managed to rebuild her life, provide a quality education for her children, and secure her livelihood. In contrast to the unscrupulous Teresa, Natasha had proven to be an extraordinary partner. Over time, Athena's store inevitably closed its doors. Sometime later, Athena found herself in the humble position of asking Gina for a job. However, she didn't pass the interview. Gina, unwavering in her principles, refused to allow someone so discriminatory to join her team. She was convinced that life had restored everything that had been unjustly taken from her. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.